Good evening, Culture Night. Hello, everybody. Apologies on the lateness. Um, Delighted to be here to host Culture Night 2020. Somewhat changed event. We're online this year and are obviously struggling with a few of the little technical issues there, but it's great to be here, even if we are a little late. We have a lovely evening ahead of us. We have four amazing speakers, original writers of original pieces, and I hope that we will bring a little bit of Syria, Pakistan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo to you in literature form this evening. So delighted to be here. I'm going to introduce your host for the evening, Kensika Moshengo. Take it away, Kensika.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my first culture night. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very delighted and very honored. As you know, I'm here with some three very interesting writers. I have Suad that I will introduce later on with Waheed and also Motasem. Okay, I will not be talking about my little book because it's a children's book, and I'm guessing that those who are listening are not children. And I chose to talk about what I call story of names from the Congo. As you know, in the Congo, there are 440 different ethnic groups with their own cultures and languages. So 400 different, and in those ethnic groups have different tribes. Okay, and I belong I belong to one of them, and I have to tell you that I don't have his name, and his father, my grandfather, doesn't have his father's name either. So why is that? So that's why it's important because it's culture night. It's about sharing. It's about understanding some other concept. That's why I want to talk about names today. And also, I would say, unfortunately, my children have my name, which is kind of strange for other people. But I'll explain. I will explain. Okay. In some part of Africa, in the Basakata tribe, where I'm from originally, there's no such thing as family name per se. Okay, names were given according to your function in society. For example, if you were a blacksmith, you have a certain name, they'll say Mokuba. So we know that this is what that person does. And if you are a fighter, they say Kemambe, we know that this is what that person does. So I think if you look at some of the similarities in ancient Europe, you'll find people with names of what they used to do. And also, and what's important, what I felt was important to share with you today was just to go against some of the preconceptions that we have about names, about people sometimes in Africa. I'll give an example. The mother of my grandfather, okay, I think my great grandmother, he would say, yeah, yeah, she was the chief of our tribe. So the woman was the chief, and her name was Monkaju. As a Monkaju, which is a chief, a woman chief, she had the right to have many husbands. So polygamy, Andre, as they call it in France, was only for that. So that woman could actually choose whoever was single in the village and say, I like that person, and that person will marry her. I mean, that was husband she wanted. And when that husband became the husband, the person will get a certain name. It will be called Sholi. That's the name of that new person. Are you with me? Okay. So it means that her name was a certain name. When she gets a husband, the husband change her name and become Sholi. So because she's a chief, whoever the children that she will have a certain name as well. So because she's a chief, the children will automatically become chief. That's why my grandfather became chief because a mother was chief. Now, that's where it becomes interesting. His name was Uju, which means chief, a man. If it was a woman, it was Monkaju, but he was Uju. That was his name. So because he's a male chief, when he has children, then it's like the chief, I would say, power will diminish. So because my grandfather was Uju, a chief, his children will be Monshe Mvula if it's a man, Monka Mvula, which is a woman. Monka is a young girl, Monshe is a young boy. Okay, so Monshe Mvula is the name of my dad because his name means that he was the son of a chief. And now I am the son of a chief. I have to be called Monshengo, and my sisters are Monkango. So we have the same name, but one is masculine, one is feminine. So then when people ask me, how come you don't have the same name as your sister? I say, no, we have the same name, but that's Monka is a feminine and Monshe is masculine. So as you grow, Monshe means little boy, Monka little girl. So now I shouldn't be called Monshengo because Monshe means little boy. I should be called Ngo. So as you move, as you grow up, you change your name. Like when my father writes to me, he never signs Monshe Mvula, which is his name. He will just write Mvula because he's not Monshe, he's not a little boy anymore. So now you guys know me as Monshengo, but it's like me walking around saying that I'm a little boy. You should actually, but it's hard now to change the name and go back to, okay, go to the civil registration office and say, oh, actually now I'm over 18 and now my name should be Ngo and not Monshengo. It's a problem. The reason I'm saying that is actually I tried that with my daughter. I said, okay, my daughter cannot be called Monshengo because it's the name of a male. She has, because she's the fourth generation after the chief, she needs to be called Kinzimi. So I've actually went to the when she was born here in Ireland. I wrote to the registration office asking, okay, she cannot bear my name because it's a masculine name, and her name means that she's my daughter. And they gave me a lot of. They wrote, I actually have the letter here, but they wrote to me that it's not possible, etc., etc. And also it's going to be difficult if you want to ask for a passport, for example, and you travel with her. You always have to explain. So there were a lot of practicalities that made now my children have my name. I would say, unfortunately, that's why I say in the beginning. So just to see that the name is not always the way we perceive it here. And in many different tribes, you find that the name is not, we don't have a family name per se. And I know that even here, when I look at a lot of European history, royalties, they don't have a family name like the Queen of England, it's just Queen of Windsor, that which is a place, is not really a family name. So there's a lot of similarities there that I found. So again, my children or my daughter, her name is Kenzimi. I put it as a middle name just to add it. So I added it as a middle name, and she kept now she has my name but with a middle name Kinzimi. So normally the fifth generation they should have to take their own names. So it's the way it works is like that. And I know there's a lot of similarities here. The fact that the more we get into nation state and legislation, you see that we lose a lot of our old tradition. But I mean, tradition is changes all the time. And I know that even in Ireland, you have MacLachlan and you have Nee Lachlan if it's a woman. Some people still get that, but you can still now see a lot of some people are women, but still with the MacLachlan instead of Nee Lachlan. So again, you see, it's the same kind of debate about names. And also one thing that's very important that you'll find in Congolese tradition, especially when it comes to twins. Mostly in most of those tribes or ethnic groups in Congo, the twins always have a certain names. So let's say in my tribe, the Basakata, I have twins actually here. The first twin who comes out has a certain name is Mbo, M-B-O, Mbo. And the second twin will be Mpia. So if I meet somebody with a name Mbo, I know they're twins. And the person who comes after the twins will be called Mputu. So if I meet somebody whose name is Mputu, I know that person has siblings who are twins. So again, in many other cultures, twins have specific names in the Congo. Also, For example, somebody who was born and instead of crying, they cough. They just started coughing instead of crying. We'll call them Mbokoso. So if I meet somebody with the name Mbokoso, I know that that baby was born and was coughing instead of crying. So there's always a meaning to a name. It's just you can't just take a name. Oh, I like he looks like Kevin Costner. I'll call him Kevin. No, he has to be. Yeah, you need a meaning behind it. And also, if for example, usually sometimes you find with twins, um, if somebody is born and instead of coming out of the mother from the head, they come out of the mother from the legs. The leg comes first, then they'll call Nsele. So if I have a cousin who's a twin, Mpia Nsele, I means that I know that by that name is the second twin and he came out of his from the feet, because they were two in the womb. Anyway, so again, I meet somebody who just with the name, I would know that if they coughed when they were born, they came out, with the feet first, or, if they're following twins, or if they are twins. So it's very important to know that the names that people have, just with the name, we can actually know what has happened around your birth. Okay, I know it might be boring, but for some people, it might be surprising to hear that, but this is what we're doing. It's about culture. It's about sharing, understanding others. Also, what's important again to notice when it comes to names is that I'm from Congo. We started it was Belgium Congo, then it became Congo, then it became Zaire. They changed the country's name into Zaire, and in 1972 the country came up with what they call authenticity. So they had to Africanize all the names because, as you know, we were colonized by Belgian, French speaking. So people had names like Jean-Pierre, Claude, Francois, etc. So just as when I was born, I was baptized with you have a Christian name, a middle name, and your African name. So my name was Willie Stanislas Monchengo. Stanislas. I don't look Eastern European, but anyway, that was my name, and that's on my baptism certificate, Willie Stanislas Moshengo. Then in 1972, the country, the dictator at the time, who was enlightened, said, okay, no, it's not normal to have Africans with names like Stanislas, Willie, Francois, Jérôme. It doesn't look real. They say you don't see a Japanese being called Jean-Pierre Yamamoto, or even in Arabic country, you don't see instead of Mohammed, we say, oh, Francois Al-Hajj. No, you say, you respect. So they said, okay, we have to do what we call authenticity. But it was a good idea, but the problem is that they had imposed it onto people. They imposed it. It was compulsory. You couldn't have any European names anymore. So then I got Kensika instead of Willie Stanislas because it was the name of somebody in my family. Okay, so, and now what happened again is 1990, they announced that, okay, now the country become democratic. So when the country become democratic, people say, okay, let's go. They rejected the dictatorship, so they went back to their Francois, Jean-Pierre, Claude. So that's why you find that in the Congolese community, you'll find people with traditional African names. So in 1990, people had the choice. So I said, okay, my name is Kensika. I'm not going to go back to Willie Stanislas. That's the past. So I just get my African names. But you'll find in the community, many people would have gone back and took the Kevin, the Jean-Pierre, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's important to see that even now, there's a big debate in different places that even within the community of migrants, should we give our children Irish names to help them fit in, or should we give them their original name? Should we call them Shivon or Aminata? That's the debate. You want them to integrate in society. So again, it's something there. So what I'm trying to say here, I know I'm taking a lot of time, but I think culture is always changing from one generation to another. And culture is never static. It's always moving. So again, the debate is out there. So this is what I wanted to share as an introduction to culture. Okay, thank you very much for following me. Now I'm gonna go to somebody that I want to introduce, Suad. Aldara, who's originally from Syria, and who will tell her a very, very interesting story. Okay, without further ado, I'll give the floor to Suad.
Thanks, Kensika. And that's really interesting about what you said about names. I suddenly don't mind my name now. I thought my name was complicated, but it's not that bad. But no, but it's really interesting to know all that about the culture of names there. So today I wanted to share a story that I wrote as part of my book. I'm currently writing a book about home, about Syria. The background here, if you can see it, it's a picture from Damascus that I took before leaving in 2012. I came to Ireland in 2014 and I've been here since. It's been lovely, it's green, and it rains a lot, but I love it. I'm gonna read part of my story, and I hope you like it. The voice is clear. You can hear me, right? Just to check. Okay. I stopped trying to explain the love I hold for Syria, but I never let go of it. I carry my troubled homeland within me. I hide it like a crime. Despite 8 years of forced separation and residing in other countries, I'm still not sure when I should typically move on, stop counting the years, and settle for another home. When someone asks where I come from, I pause more than I should. And when I'm asked what I miss the most, my mind bustles as loud as the vibrant streets of Damascus. I picture what I left behind: my sweet grandmother, my fluffy black and white cat, and my pile of books. But most importantly, I miss myself. I was a different person. My thoughts, my words, my outfits, and my friends were all different. Everything about me now has changed. For better or for worse, that's not clear yet. But the earlier version of me is still trapped inside. They call it integration. I call it schizophrenia. Sometimes I try to define home in order to replicate it, to replace it. I fail terribly and end up with a harsher disappointment. What is home? It is the smell of a traditional home cooked meal that welcomes you when you open the door of your house after a long day. A warm hug from a grandmother that always treats you as a special guest. A hysterical laugh with an old time friend at a favorite coffee shop that knows your usual order. A loud family gathering you secretly wish to escape to avoid the endless questions and interrogations. Your favorite song on the radio, your native language on the signs of the streets, the familiar faces and the roads most walked. It is all the little things that can't be written down nor described to those who did not live it. It is the hole inside the soul that cannot be filled by any other place. A few years ago, I discovered the term for that feeling, an untranslatable Portuguese word, saudade. As defined in the Dictionary of Untranslatables, saudade is a deep nostalgia, the longing for something that is not there anymore. Saudade proceeds from a memory that wants to renew the present by means of the past in a loving soul that is restrained by the limits of its condition, whatever that might be. I learned about this word at a concert in New York by a Syrian musician as he was announcing the title of his next piece, Saudade. He missed home, the same home I was longing for, and whereas I could only use words to express that, he used musical notes. Some days, some normal days, Saudade hits me out of the blue. I'm walking in the street, working on my laptop, or chatting at a gathering. I notice an Arabic word written somewhere, or someone decides to tell me about their trip to Syria back in the day. A song that I used to play back home pops up in shuffle play, or an old photo from my archive appears on my computer screen while I'm looking for something else. It hits suddenly and hard. What am I doing here? How did I ever leave Syria behind? Why am I speaking English rather than Arabic? And why are my family and best friends so hard to reach? And as if I just woke up from a coma and suddenly lost all my memories, I failed to recognize people and places around me. Everyone becomes a stranger. Filled with panic, I rush to hide and let my tears flow. I cry until my nose turns red and my eyes get puffy. I calm my heartbeat and I start remembering. You are in Ireland. You left Syria after the war. You speak English so people can understand you. Your family and best friends are scattered around the world. You need a visa to see them. They need a visa to see you. But one question remains without an answer. Will I ever go back? Yet. Thank you. Back to you, Kensika, I guess.
Okay, thank you very much, Suad, for these words. Okay, I have some questions, but I'm gonna go over the others first, and I'll come back to you later. Okay, so the next person I would like to introduce is another writer called Motasem Al Haji Ali. Motasem is also from Syria, and I'll let you tell us what you have for us, Motasem. Back to you.
Hi, thank you, Kensila. Today I'd like to tell you a story from my childhood in Syria, which helped me when I first arrived in Ireland more than 6 years ago. This story, I was thinking about writing this story before Neve called me to this event, and I thought it could really fit to this event. I call this story The Price of Wisdom. I hope you will like this name, and maybe you can see why I called it The Price of Wisdom. And if you don't, feel free to ask later in the end of the story. So, The Price of Wisdom. When I was a child, we used to spend our summers at the family farmhouse. There we had some pigeons, hens, and some sheep, and of course, our lovely dog, Lucky. We also had olive trees, pomegranate, grapes, peaches, apples, and a garden full of vegetables. One summer, my brother Malik started the pigeon project. He bought some young pigeons and looked after them as they learned to fly, mate, and lay eggs. As we had a lot of wheat fields around our land, and my brother was raising them so well, the number of pigeons increased quickly, and from the first 3 or 4 couples, we had more than 35 couples nesting in our loft. One day, my brother came home full of excitement as he had seen a new type of pigeon in the marketplace that he had never seen before. After a few days of negotiation, my brother managed to persuade my dad to give him some money to buy the new pigeon. I saw him running with a big smile towards his red 3-headed snake bike while I was on my way back from the stable. He didn't stop to tell me the news. He went straight to the town marketplace, and when he came back after about an hour, it was with a beautiful white pigeon who strutted like a model with blood-red eyes, a fantail, and feathers on its legs. "Why didn't you take me with you?" I shouted at my brother when I saw the pigeon. "I would have liked to go and look at all birds they had." My brother didn't respond, but instead ran to my father to show off his newest bird. Dad, I get it. Look at it. It's so nice, isn't it?" my brother said. Taking his time, my dad replied, "Yes." What are you gonna name it?" I asked. "I think you should call him Red because he has bloody eyes." "Good name," my brother said. "Where are you gonna put it?" Dad asked. "With the other pigeons," my brother replied, as if this should be obvious. No answer coming from my dad, except a calm smile. I still remember that smile as if it had just happened a minute ago. It was a smile that left me wondering all the way to the stable roof where we kept the pigeon coop. Sometimes, with someone like my dad who spoke very little, it could take years to find out what he meant and what wisdom aimed to teach us. Anyhow, we flew up to the pigeon coop and put Red in. It was almost dusk. Then we went back home to tell my sisters about the new pigeon. We slept that day with a lot of thoughts and dreams. My brother proclaimed that Red would make us rich because he explained to me, this type of pigeon is expensive and we will have his babies so we can sell them and make good money. It's difficult to forget happy days as it is difficult to forget sad ones, but both will be stories you can tell later. Early the next day, we jumped from the bed and ran past my mom, who shouted, "Where are you going? Breakfast is almost ready." Neither of us answered. So she sighed, "Okay, but don't be late." We didn't answer her and kept running to the loft to check on our new guest. The pigeon coop had two doors, one that we could enter and one for the pigeons to fly from. Usually, the pigeon's door was left open and it was on the edge of the roof, so no cats could enter the coop. Carrying the pigeons' breakfast and water, we opened the door, but a big disappointment was waiting for us. "What?" I exclaimed. Red wasn't there. My brother started whistling loudly to call Red and scattered the seeds on the roof. All the pigeons showed up except Red. My brother said, maybe we need to wait, and I thought the same. So we waited and waited, and sometimes whistled, sometimes threw the seeds, and whistled, but there was no sign of Red. My mom came over afternoon to find out why we were late. We said, we are coming. You need to eat, she said. We are not hungry, Mom, we replied. She left us, and about an hour later, my dad came over. Hey, Malik, Motasem, what are you doing? Asked Dad. We are feeding the pigeons, my brother said. Why are you late? What took you all this time? Dad said. We are looking for Red. He's sent in the coop, my brother said. Come here, sons, Dad said. Jumping down the stairs, we gathered near him. Tell me what happened. In a disappointed voice, I said, we put Red in the coop yesterday evening, as you know, but we didn't find him this morning. We have been waiting for him to come back, but he hasn't. My dad smiled again like the day before and kept silent for a moment. But it was a long moment for me. With a big question mark on my face, I asked, why are you smiling, Dad? With a calm face, Dad said, Red flew back to his previous owner. What? But why? Because he went home, Dad explained, with a big exclamation mark on my face. What do you mean? We put him in the coop and we gave him water and food. This is his new home, I said. Yes, but that's not enough to make a home, Dad said. Then what do we need to do that? My brother said. need to close the coop and keep the pigeons inside with Red for a while until they know each other and make friends and love. That's it. My brother smiled this time. He was 12 or 13, and I was 5 or 6. With almost visible question marks, exclamation marks, and even ellipses on my face, I kept silent. After a few moments of silence, all right, let's go and get Red back, I said, and make this coop his new home, said Malik, smiling again. We went to the marketplace, and sure enough, Red was there with the seller, preening his feathers. We followed my dad's advice when Red came back to the coop. Red eventually built a new home with a family. The first time we opened the door for him, I was anxious. But from then on, he always flew back. I didn't understand the depth of the story at that time, but the story came back to me when I had to fly to Ireland and I became the new Red. It was difficult to start a new life in a new country with a new culture and a new language, so many new things, and so many things left behind. But I learned that with hope, dreams, love, friends, family, and knowledge, a new home can be built anywhere. As they say, home is where the heart is. And thank you.
Wow, wow.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Motasem.
I hope you like it.
That's very touching. And and it took me some time. I was trying to see where you're going with that, but then when you start talking about getting ready to meet the others and friend, I could see the symbolism with being in a new place, making friends to make it a new home. Thank you very much for that very touching story, Motasem. Okay, last but not least, I would like to invite Waheed to tell us his story. Okay, Waheed, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Kensika. After after listening Kensika's name gymnastic, Saud's emotional home stories, and Mutasim's wisdom, let me tell you something about the plague me. Plague me not in terms of our friend Kensika tell, but in the general terms that plague me in relation to the women, because in most of the world, the polygamy happened when men have multiple wives. So, um, but first of all, let me tell a public message that COVID is still there. So please, we should follow the government instructions. So, polygamy is not only a form of social and gender-based violence, but a moral crime as well. In so many countries and cultures, it is legal, where women can do nothing except accepting it. I personally have seen a lot of cases where well-educated, well-mannered, and cultured ladies had to face this legal violence. I'm going to present my latest short story, The Apple. Apple is basically a metaphoric monologue of a 17 years old pregnant little girl who loves her husband. Then let's see what happens one evening. It was very quiet autumn evening, more silent, with only a few bird songs left due to the cold and COVID in Dublin. Dublin, a very busy city, but Hatch Hall area was quiet and ideal for a luxurious hotel. Like a statue standing beside the window of a room at third floor of H Hall, um, 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 a refugee center, Looking trees outside on cul-de-sac road, the fallen autumn leaves, half green, yellow, and red. Aisha, a 17 years old, very elderly woman in full covered dress and a scarf. She was thinking deep, exploring galaxies maybe, or flying to Venus, who knows? Holding a red apple in her right hand, as her doctor advised her to take a few apples every day because it's good in pregnancy, and a golden in her left. In her silence, she was diving in her deep, dry daydreams to bring something dire out, something neat to come out from the dawn before this reddish autumn dust vanished tonight. Yes, she was thinking about her journey from her first bite at the first apple to the apples she was holding today. Yes, she was searching for her soul and the purpose of her existence. Who she is still a question to her. Yes, she was thinking about the phone call she received a few moments ago. What a terrible message that broke her inside. The messenger did not care before passing the message full of horror, terror, or a natural error. She was thinking about her curves outside and inside the pink dreams of 16. She was flying without wings once when the messenger sent her message of love and marriage. She was remembering the winter midnight in the desert when they both were biting at the only apple. His touch on her curves and the kisses on her lips were rising her dreams above the clouds. What else a girl of her age needs but some sweet words and a little ring? She was feeling little movements in her inside too, proving her love for the messenger. Slightly, the pinkish glow of her diamond cut face was turning red like the red apple she was carrying in her right hand. What else could she do but to curse at her curves? The tip salted water moving on her silver cheeks was about to flood her thoughts, but the fears she was carrying from the dawn were covering and beating down her thoughts. Her thoughts, the revolution, the lava inside. She was thinking, how could, how could, how could she have received the message that she has never imagined? How the messenger could be that much savage and greedy? But at the same time, she feels fear, a terrible fear. Fear that has shaken her thoughts. She jerks her head off and says, no, no, it is permitted. He is not at fault. If her existence is for the pleasure of the messenger, then how can he be savage? But how could, but how could he tell her that he is having another wife? Another wife, what does it mean? What does it mean that two lips kisses four or more or even more? How could he give me feeling that I am no more for him, but he will remain more and more for me? If I am carrying his baby and he is going to carry another carriage, how it can be accepted? But it is permitted. How she cannot accept what is designed by the big guy sitting upstairs, the creator, or maybe the creators of the creator, who know? How he could how he could only have my outside, but what is inside? No one cares. No one now. Why? She was drowning in her weird imagination. She was feeling herself at the crossroad, whether she should have accepted the 1,000 years reality, or she would have to knock it down and create her new reality by herself. Whether she should follow the same path of hate and lust created for her by the strangers, or she would have to create her own Milky Way. How can I live when I know he is to be shared? How could he accept if I share my curse? Not, definitely not. It can never be accepted. While surviving in her sorrows, she raises her right hand up and takes a bite of the red apple. But she had to throw it away because the apple looks fresh from outside, has poison inside. She takes a pause. She makes up her mind. The courage, the revolution, the change. She takes off her scarf and feels the silence of the autumn breeze. She looks at the golden apple held in her left hand and dials a number. The bell rings. A man says, "It's Garda helpline. How can I help you?" Then she writes a text message to the messenger. And the text was, "No more." Thank you very much. Gori Magat.
Thank you very much, Waheed, for that touching story, raising awareness on polygamy and what people may feel, because sometimes it's important to look at from the inside. I have a question that I would like to ask. I'll go back to Suad, who started. I know you started with something as again. You spoke about deep nostalgia that you call Sodad, I think. So
Yes.
my question is,
I can't hear you.
oh,
I'm
okay,
sorry. You just cut off for a
okay.
second.
I'm saying that you spoke about deep nostalgia that you call Sodad. Do you think that it will disappear one day, that it will fade away?
Uh, I hope so. I don't know if it will fade away. I think the it is maybe defined like that, that it's the feelings that hold you back to something. But it's an interesting word, actually. I didn't know before, and when I looked it up in this untranslatable dictionary of words, and I wish there is a translation for it, but it was really interesting because it captured exactly how I feel and how I miss home and how I can't replicate it or find it again. So I think we got it all. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And also, I know that your story and Motasem's story was in with Motasem. I felt there was more. There was hope. You know, it made me when you said your story. I was like, yes, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I know there's this. As they say, time always heals things. And well, Motasem, I think, is a different outlook. You want to say something, Motasem? If you want to add something.
Home is home. Definitely, we always will have, we will miss home, you know, like we have our memories, we have our childhood, we still telling those stories. This is my 11th story in my book. So you will never forget those days, you know, but definitely like everybody on this earth, we need to go on, you know, like we need to continue life. We need to after a time, you will start creating hopes and dreams and loves, and you could create, I mean, new network, new people, new friends with the time in a new land. You know, like what I mean. And nowadays, after 6 years in Dublin, for example, I have memories with many streets in Dublin. I have memories with many places in Ireland. I have many friends. I'm working. My kids, like, they have a lot of friends. We have nice neighbors. I mean, like last time when I moved to the last house, I got really nice welcome from them. All of those small bits, you know, the ones who create home, you know what I mean? And I think it's a little bit different probably from person to person, but it could take some time more with some people than others. But in the end of the day, I don't think anyone will stuck with the past, you know.
Well, I agree definitely. Home is, it's hard to define, but for me, the point where I changed my view to things is when I had a child and he became home for me. So home is a person for me now, and every time I'm with him, I feel home. So there is hope.
So it's not the
I
building,
was
it's the people that matter. Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
telling
home
like
can be someone, can be a feeling, can be many things. So it's not only the place. And even if I go back to Syria today, it's not the same for me. So the place that I'm missing is no longer there. So it is better to look to the future more than the past, but the memories will always be there. But yeah, for me now, home is my kid. So it's a
Wow.
new start. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Waheed,
Motasem, you were
I
trying to
was
say.
I was telling this story to my little daughter. She's 5 years old, and she was listening, like, you know what I mean. And I asked her what she think about the story, and I asked her about what she think about the last saying. You know, when I said, um, "Home is where the heart is,"
Mhm.
and she said, "Do you mean the home in my chest?" Like,
Like the actual part.
and yeah, I mean, like, it was nice to
Yeah, it's
hear
amazing to
their
see
thoughts.
the story from the eyes of the kids, how they perceive it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to go back to Waheed. Waheed, if you can summarize in one sentence the message you want us to get from your reading. One sentence. What would you say?
Change. I like to conclude, as you ask, the Percy Bysshe Shelley's quotation that change is the omnipotent phenomena. So, so change is the only permanent thing that we have in this world, in this universe. So, as you know, that in most of the cultures, there are some 1,000 years old traditions. Yeah, and I have seen personally so many cases where the people, um, uh, especially women, they have to suffer. So now it is time to wake. It is time to wake up, and it is time for a change. It is time for a big change, as our friends Suad and Motasem, they have, and you also, uh, including me, we are experiencing like a geographical change. And now it's a time to have a emotional and psychological change as well. So, in last year, last but not least, yeah, so in this country, while living in this country, we should and we have to, not we have to, but emotionally we should adopt the culture of this country. We should adopt and we should respect the Irish values because, of course, we have received a lot of uncountable loves from this green nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Waheed. Thank you very much for this testimony. Something I think it's important to tell the positive stories as well. And I just want to move to Neve. You have to unmute yourself. Okay, and tell us from all those presentation. If you guess, I want to hear your expression, your sentiment. Go ahead.
I absolutely loved hearing those stories. I think that we'll start at the beginning with Suad's writing. I think that Suad is the most beautiful writer. I think the way she puts things into words, it really gets me. So what it does for me is it draws out emotion that I didn't even know was there. So there was a couple of lines in that will stay with me. Motasem's piece I loved the writing and I loved the sentiment behind it. I love the idea of you hearing these words from your father all those years ago, but it not quite clicking, until all those years later, when you had this experience of coming to Ireland. I love the pigeon metaphor. First of all, it's hugely relevant to Ireland and Dublin. We love our pigeons. I didn't know before that there was a culture of keeping pigeons in Syria. So I think it's nice to see those similarities. And I see in your story, Motasem, the fact the pigeon needed to go into the coop for an interim time, even though it didn't want to be there, but it couldn't settle into the coop and find a new home until it was kind of locked in there, really. And I think that's a lot of us in our comfort zones. We don't tend to move out and grow unless we get a little bit of a push, So I thought that was really interesting. Waheed's story, I was on the edge of my seat, Waheed. I was getting very stressed, and it was there was a great build in it, in the style of writing. So I really enjoyed that as well. The topic is a difficult one, polygamy. I think for me, as an Irish person, it's not something I have really encountered. I try to, unless I know people who have gone through the experience themselves, I try not to impose my own personal mental kind of models onto something so different from me. So yeah, a difficult topic and very well written with a lovely pace to it. So yeah, and Kensika, is lovely to learn all about the names in the Congo. I love those kind of cultural differences, and for me, as lovely as it is to have a very Irish culture night, I think that culture night, we need to celebrate each other's differences. It's these things that I never even knew that your name could change 3 times in Congo, and they're the kind of differences I think that add colour and interest to the world, and that we should be celebrating. And that's why I think I'll speak for all of the Ireland Says Welcome group when I say that it's one of the reasons we love Culture Night. It's just an opportunity to bring people from other cultures together for a multicultural culture night and an opportunity to celebrate these differences.
Thank you very much, Neve. I'm conscious of time. I know it's 8:06. I don't want to keep everybody here till 9. So I'm just going to ask one by one, starting by Suad and then Motasem and Waheed, just to say one last word and then we'll wrap up. Is that okay? Or maybe if there are some questions, we're open. But I think given the time, go ahead. You want to say something?
There's one question coming from Olive, and she's wondering, have you always been storytellers, or did you begin writing in your homes, or since you came to Ireland? And how do you feel about sharing your stories now? So that might be a nice little closing round of questions. So you know, when you started writing, and how do you feel about sharing your stories now? Thank you.
Okay, so I used to write back in Syria in Arabic. I used to have a blog, and I shared a couple of times in newspapers in Arabic, of course. I used to write in English, like just for essays for school, but that's I haven't published anything in English before coming to Ireland. But then when I came here to Ireland, I started taking writing courses, and my background is software engineer. I also did a master's in data analytics here. But during the lockdown, somehow I found myself, I need to write. So thanks to the lockdown, it gave me this time finally to prioritize writing. And also, I've been recently shortlisted by Penguin Random House for my memoir as well, which I am writing right now. So that gave me kind of the evidence that I wanted to pursue writing. So that's for me.
Thank you very much. Very impressive. Well, maybe this time Waheed, and we'll finish with Motasem, if you don't mind. Okay, Waheed?
Yes, thank you very much. In terms of writing, I love writing always from my childhood, and I have written a couple of novels, and some of my short stories have also been published in the international journals. And I'm getting I had to complete my book in process, which is the experiences of living as a refugee in the centers. Yeah? And the title is the 2100 Days. When I started this book, the title was 1300 days, but now due to the process and long waits, now the 1300 days turned into 2100 days. Yeah. So, and in the last word, I want to dedicate one word to all Irish nation and the Irish government, Irish systems, everything Irish, and that is Gorib Ma Agat. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Waheed. Thank you. Okay, last but not least, Motasem.
For me, I started writing things for myself very early age. But the first publishing I did, it was when I was 19. After my leaving cert, I wrote a book about leaving cert students. This book aimed to help the students in leaving cert. I mean, it's a stressful time for all the students. So it's helped them about their problems at that time, their feelings, their stressful, how they remember things, memorize things, how they should deal with some of those problems. I published that book in Syria once, and I published it also in Jordan. I have some other tries. I didn't publish anything else. And this book, the one I'm trying to write now in English, it's also not published yet. So hopefully it will be soon.
Thank you very much. So
Thank
again,
you. Thanks.
maybe I'll let you, Neve, wrap up since you started. So I'll give you the last word, and I want to thank all of you for coming. It was very, very interesting for me, especially. I like everything you had to say. I learned a lot, and thank you for all of you to be here and to listen to us. So maybe Neve, you want to wrap up as call off.
Thank you, Kensika.
So thank you so much to everyone who attended this evening and to all of our speakers. I really appreciate you giving up your time to share your writing like this. I am going to put a few links into the YouTube chat, and I will put them on the Facebook event as well. Absolutely optional, but there are donations for some grassroots charities in Greece. I think we all know the issues that are going on there around Mariah, and there's great need there. So I'm putting 4 links for grassroots charities in Greece. And the other thing that I'm going to share with you is a link for another Culture Night event. It's another live stream. It should be kicked off by now. And it is one of our previous guests for Culture Night, a group called the Kaleidoscope Collective. And it is hip hop. It's probably not for little ears, just to be aware of that. But if anyone fancies a little bit of hip hop coming live from the Sugar Club this evening, from the Kaleidoscope Collective, a previous guest of ours on Culture Night, then I will put that link in there as well. So I think we can wind up there with a final thank you to all of the guests, and a big thank you to Kensika, your wonderful host.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.